vamos a mover from listening to visualizing Bad Bunny. Nuevamente, Yarimar Bonilla, directora de Centro. I'm so excited to introduce our special guest, Cacho López Marí, who, woo! I guess in this crowd, he needs no introduction, and we have been talking about your work all day. But for those who don't know, Cacho is a Puerto Rican filmmaker and the founder of Film Zapatero. His award-winning career spans from directing iconic music videos for some of Latin America's most influential artists to advertising spots for global brands. He got his start directing music videos for a little-known artist called Tego Calderón. Don't know if folks here have heard of him. A couple of other, indie artists, Daddy Yankee, Ricky Martin, Chayanne, Calle 13. He's a 7-time Latin Grammy nominee, 2-time Grammy Award winner in the category of Best Music Video. And in particular relationship to Bad Bunny, he has directed the Callaíta video, was one of his first videos for Bad Bunny. The first. He also did El Apagón, which I'm sure we'll talk a lot about. And most recently, the Coachella videos about the history of reggaeton, etc. So thank you so much for being here. Can we get a hand for Cacho?
Thank you.
Cacho, So I talked about all the important work that you've done as a director, but you got your start in reggaeton on the dance floor, I hear.
Oh, yeah. So, I started as a dancer, not of reggaeton, but of hip-hop, right? I lived in San Francisco with my mother when I was 8 to 10, more or less, or 9. It was like a year and a half there. But there I had my first chance to go on a stage and dance for a talent show for my school, Lecon School in Oakland. So there was my first, street dance experience. And when I moved back to Puerto Rico, that was also starting in Puerto Rico, and the corners and the break dance, or electro boogie, how it was called back then. So I was dancing in school, and then I participated in a talent show in Puerto Rico, in which I sang and danced, right, a rap song. And we won, right? It was like we got the first prize in the talent show, and I pursued dancing in school. I went to a dance school, right? So I started dancing jazz. I did ballet. I did many styles, but hip hop always was my core. So I started dancing professionally when I was 16 in a TV show in Puerto Rico in Telemundo. And there I met, Ricky Martin. I met there actually. Not, he didn't remember after, but I met him when I was really young over there. And I started in the dance floor as a performer. So that was my first steps.
And then you also hosted reggaeton parties, fiestas de underground in Puerto Rico.
Yes. After I graduated high school, I started producing parties in nightclubs, right? Actually, I ran a nightclub in Puerto Rico for quite a while. It was Egipto was the name of the club.
Conocido.
Yeah, well. Si las pirámides hablaran. Bueno, okay. So I was in the club scene, and underground was growing up. Was just coming out of los caseríos and playero and negro and all that. So since I had a sensibility for that, I actually jumped on it really quick, and with my associates in the party thing, we started, working with a specific group in Carolina. It was Mansiones de Carolina. It was a urbanization they call it, una urbanización. And there you had, Chesina, Rey Pirín was there. It was Michael Emanuel, Alberto Styles. So many of the first, underground artists. And we started throwing parties in Ponce, Puerto Rico. It was Ponce because it was the only place that would open the doors to us to do underground parties, because the other parties were all happening underground, really underground. It felt like a parranda because there was a lot of cars with the flasher lights or the just going one behind the other from a party to another, and they would get $100 per party, and they would sing their hearts out in every party. So they would they couldn't talk at the end of the night. But we were going to parties with them every day, and we started throwing parties in Ponce, Puerto Rico first. And then we threw a big party. And do you remember the discotheque in Isla Verde, the Flying Saucer? Okay, there you go. Well, in the Flying Saucer, it wasn't called the Flying Saucer at that point. It was Reggae Roots. It was the name of the disco at that point. And we went there on a Thursday night. Nobody was there. It was us and it was me, a partner, and the bartender, and we were like, oh, there's nothing happening here. It was a Friday, so we said, I think we could do something here, man. We could promote a party if you let us. We'll bring some singers, and we'll throw a party. So they said yes. That week we did a flyer. The next few days. Next week we promoted. And we got like 3,000 people in that disco that night. So it was like the biggest. I would, for me, of what I remember, it was like the biggest underground party at that point. Daddy Yankee got into the stage to sing El Mexicano, because back in the day, they would sing. You would pay 5 singers. It was $100, $200 per singer, but 40 singers would end up singing because they wanted to go on stage and sing. So since there wasn't a lot happening, since that was a big party in a Blanquito discotheque, and it was like no, we're all going. We actually destroyed the disco. It was crazy. When at the end of the day, it was all in ruins. But it was a big party, And yeah.
And those were the days where we were exchanging cassette tapes, ¿verdad? Los mixtapes, de playero, etc. So I think a lot of people have thought about the importance of that kind of media and passing around before streaming and all of that, right? When that kind of music was not being played on the radio, that's how we heard about it. So tell us about then the role of video in growing reggaeton, growing its audience, and the kind of video stories that you have participated in.
Well, actually, the music video story for reggaeton in Puerto Rico really took off pretty quick, because actually in the mid-90s, they started calling reggaeton, right? It was underground before that. At that point, I had moved to Miami to study graphic design, and when I come back, it's called reggaeton, right? And at that point, music videos were being made like 4, 5, 6 videos a day, and you had directors doing 2 a day. There was a joke about a director back in the day that he would go to a street and wherever, and they say, okay, so the first video is going to be looking that way, and the second video this way, right? So it was that quick. They would shoot. It was film. We were shooting in 60 millimeter. A lot of the videos, and that took a process, but it started growing to a point that they built. That they didn't build, but they put a channel together, El Canal 18, in which it was all reggaeton videos, and that's a nice story I have is that when I come back from Miami, I started directing commercials, right, before music videos. So when I got the kick of directing the set and understanding film, I started thinking about doing music videos pretty quick, right? I was raised watching MTV, from morning to evening. So I was like, I want to do a video, and Tego Calderón was just coming up, right? In all these various artists collaborations that he did before El Abayarde. So I got the chance to call, a White Lion Records and offer to do a video for Tego. At that point, I had a producer saying, if you get Tego, we'll just do a video for him just for free, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to get Tego. So because of the experience I had with the underground, parties and all that. I had met, a lot of people that were still involved in the genre. So I called Richie from In the House magazine. I don't know if you guys, well, Richie In the House. I talked to him about Tego, and he said, no, he's with White Lion. So he called, he gave me the phone to call Elias de Leon, and I offered the video. They were, they couldn't believe it at first, so they visited me. We, they met in the production house, and they saw it was real, So at that point, they were like, okay, if you're going to give me a video, you might as well select the song yourself, do whatever. So when they played, they said, we have a new CD coming out. It's called El Avallarde. We're like, okay. So they put it in and they put it on, and Avallarde is the first song of the video of the CD. So I immediately went, that's the song I want to do, because I was more hip hop than reggaeton, which Tego was also. He was mentioned now, and yeah, I wanted to do El Avallarde, and that's what happened. They called later and said, hey, can we include Gracias too, the other song? Because if you see the video, it's 2 songs. Back in the day, they would do that. We would do a couple of songs per video. So.
And that was the story with Gasolina too. It was you did the video for Gasolina, and it was supposed to be just one part of a 3-part video, right?
Yeah, totally. They called to do King Daddy, No Me Dejes Solo, with Wisin y Yandel, and Gasolina. But it was 3 songs, 3 songs from this new CD, Barrio Fino. And I was working at that time in the Dominican Republic in Santo Domingo. I was shooting commercials there for a year, all year long. And I was there. They called, hey, we have these videos, this songs. We want to do a video. And I told them, well, it's cool, but I'm in the Dominican Republic. If you guys come here, we can do it. And they did that. They flew to the Dominican Republic, and that's why the Gasolina video is in Las Americas racetrack in Santo Domingo. Yeah.
And at the time, they didn't realize that Gasolina was going to be like the most epic reggaeton song of its time.
They had no clue. No, they we
you had to loop it. You told me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we shot for a minute for each song, so it was 3-minute video. And we had only 1 minute of La Gasolina shot, right? So they called, hey, La Gasolina is blowing up globally. We need to edit the video for the whole song, right? And I was like, well, bro, we just shot 1 minute of the song. And he was like, hey, no, it shouldn't matter because the song is repeated. Like, if you listen to La Gasolina, it's a 2-time, once he says, ella prende la turbina, no discrimina. Well, if you listen to a song, it's 2 times, it's a copy-paste of that, because it was a very short song. So we were able to make it sync and work with the outtakes, and that's why it's so repetitive, actually. Yeah.
If you've never noticed how repetitive it is, try doing it to karaoke. You will be like, again. So, Cacho, how then do you come to collaborate with Benito?
Well, with Benito, it was, I guess it's the 3rd or 4th chapter of my career, I guess, because that was the other day, it was 2019. And it was all because of a producer that works with us called Carmen Diaz. She was she was working with Rimas, I think. And at that point, she started working with us, so she was just closing the project she had with Rimas, and there I think she had a chance to talk to Noah Assad, the owner and the founder of Rimas, and she went like, bro, I think Bad Bunny doesn't have a video of Cacho, made by Cacho, right? So I don't know, you should take a look at that, right? So that was that, and then they checked the web page, and they saw a piece I had done for Medalla beer, a Puerto Rican beer, and it was like a summer vibe, young people having fun with beer in a beach, right? So it was a pretty cool commercial that we did at that point, and they said, oh, okay, that's it looks like what Benito has in mind for his video. So they called, hey, yeah, we would like to see a treatment for a new song we have, and they sent Callaíta in. So I loved the song from the first time I played it. It was an anthem from it was obvious that it was going to be huge, and yeah, I did a treatment, sent it really quick. A few days passed, and they approved the treatment. So we went for it. Yeah, that was our first time.
And in that moment, Benito, I mean, I don't think we even called him Benito yet. He was Bad Bunny, right? And he was a rising star, but not the global star that he is today. So how was it working with him artistically? Like, how was that creative partnership?
Well, it was a different situation from the early, from the latest collaborations. He was still, Benito is a shy guy, in essence. I don't know if he's a shy guy anymore, right? But at that point, he was shyer, and they called me to meet with him in another video shoot that was happening in San Juan. So and they said, you have 10 minutes to talk to him. He has only 10 minutes. I was okay, cool, because I was going to just listen to his idea of what he wanted to do. So whatever he wants to, whatever time he wants to spend talking to me. So I went to the meeting. He came in, pretty cool, Oh, gotcha, thank you. I want to do a video about the perfect summer. I want kids to see this and really want to be there. So that was about what he said, At that point, that's very different now, right? Right now, his ideas are clear and very specific. So El Apagón was very different, He had it was an evolving idea that he had very clear from the beginning for the song, and then when it became a documentary about the topics we talked about in the documentary, that happened later. But he has been. He has developed into a very clear idea man, idea guy. Not only the video ideas, but the cover ideas, the show, the performance ideas, everything that you see, almost everything comes from his head, That is just a bunch of teams that we I'm part of one of the teams that help him out in different things, and he gives missions to those teams and goes, okay, you do this video, you do this, you do that, you shoot the concert or whatever he wants us to do, he calls for help.
Right, I forgot to mention that in addition to the videos that you've made, you've also been documenting his concerts, right? Carefully, the one in El Choliseo, in Yankee Stadium, and El Azteca. So you've also seen that production side of him as well, right?
Yeah. We started with the P Fucking R concert. It was the biggest concert I've ever seen in my life, and certainly the biggest concert that has ever been put together in Puerto Rico. He called us to put together the filming of the live performance, and that was my first experience with film was shooting concerts actually with Cultura Profética. So when I when I moved back to Puerto Rico from Miami studying graphic design, I started designing covers, CD covers for Cultura was my first, an album called Ideas Nuevas. From there, I wrote the script for their first concert in el Tito Puente, in el amphitheater, the amphitheater. So I wrote the script, I designed and edited all the visuals in the concert, right? Back in the day, no LED screens, none of that. It was projection, rear or front projection. And there was no digital video editing, the using computers to shoot everything. It was done analogically using Betacam tapes. So we had 2 Betacam machines, right, and many tapes where we would put tape A, tape B, and when we had a switcher where we would go from one to the other if needed be, right? And there we got a chance to shoot the first concert for a platform. It was DirecTV, right? So DirecTV paid for having the concert, put through their channels, and for the first time we had the mission to shoot a concert. So we had we got cameragraphers and camera people and whatever, and we put it together. But it was intuition all the way. I didn't know how to do it, but we did it.
Did you work on the transmission of the Choliseo concert that was transmitted on Telemundo?
Which one?
Bueno, there was one that was like live streamed during the concert, and
the Benitos.
Yeah,
yeah, we've done all of that. Yeah,
which I think was the first time a reggaeton concert has been shown on Puerto Rican television.
Well,
right?
it was that was Un Verano Sin Ti from El Choliseo. Yeah, he did. He announced the concerts 2 weeks later, 2 weeks before the concerts, and that created a massive and also he said that or he was just selling the tickets personally. No digital. In person. Yeah. So that made thousands of people camped outside the Choliseo to buy the tickets, and then it came up that he had the idea to just throw it out to everybody through TV, and that cost plazas to meet with thousands of people. 100 and something thousand people saw the concerts in the 13 plazas that it was projected live in open air. So it was just crazy.
And Rimas bought the airtime on Telemundo, right?
I don't know if they bought it or not.
Yeah. And it was ad free. It was this kind of the only thing that I've ever thought compared to it is the especial del Banco Popular, right? So it's like this kind of gift to the people of this reggaeton concert, which I for me, when he comes out swearing and all this stuff, I'm like, oh my goodness, Telemundo se va a caer, right? And it was also everyone watching in the plazas, and I was watching in Brooklyn on like Twitch or something, bootleg, switching bootleg like YouTubes and TikToks and everything. I don't think there's ever been a comparable mediatic event for Puerto Ricans, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think there has been anything like it. It was TV, was the whole country watching through the TVs or going to plazas in the thousands of people. I'm talking about 10,000 people in one plaza, 10,000 in another one. So when you add all that, it was like 140,000 people in the plazas only, and then you had everybody else at home. So yeah, it was quite it was nerve-wracking, right, to say the least. To know that you were live, it was going live, and whatever we were doing was good or bad, it was going out there.
I would love to hear from you, to think with us about this trajectory of starting from the amazing video Callaíta, which is beautiful and amazing, but a kind of music video, right? In a traditional sense. These kind of mediatic spectacles that bring together Puerto Rican plazas with their big screens and people in the diaspora y las abuelitas viendo en Telemundo. And then we have El Apagón, which is absolutely not a traditional video. I don't know of any other music video that ends with a documentary, expose. And then the Coachella videos, which I wanted to show some of it, and you're like, oh, you can't just show it. That's like 20 different screens. It's like a video installation, right? Is how has he kind of and in your collaboration with him kind of opened up the meaning of a music video for a reggaeton artist?
Yeah, well, in my case, I come from a family that's politically engaged, right? I'm the grandson of Juan Maribras, and that brings with that something, right? It brings, I don't want to start crying or anything, but it brings, I want to say hurt, dolor, right? To know that your grandfather was persecuted, that your uncle was assassinated, right? So politically, you are charged. You bring a package when you are born into a family like that. So I want to think that I'm politically conscious, and that I want my work and my art or whatever I do to have a political impact if it had to, right? And I was remembering today that my first video, which was Abayarde and Gracias for Tego, the last phrase of the song that we put together with De Gracia says, "Gracias gobierno por robarnos tanto y cada 4 años vestirse santo," right? So at that point, we're using in that video we used Tego's albums from his infancy. So that's how I met Tego. Actually, I met him going to his house in Carolina to meet his mother and his father, right? And that was the story I want to say earlier. Okay, so I get there, and Tego's father is watching El Canal 18, the videos, right? So he's watching that while listening to Brazilian music, like we're talking about the bossa nova, Ipanema, all that stuff, right? So he's there, but the image is reggaeton, right? Tego comes up, mute and on to Tego, right? So Tego sings, Tego ends, mute. While Ñengo was there, right? So it was a pretty surreal moment, and then you had his mother was there with like 20 albums, photo albums. So I spent hours looking at every album and picking the ones I thought they were cool, right? So when I'm looking at one of them, and then you have this photo of La Mamá de Tego, with Tego like maybe 1 year old or maybe less, a few months old, and she's there posing in front of del Capitolio, right? So when he says "Gracias gobierno por robarnos tanto," Bob, and then he flips the page, and it, you see his mother and him when he was a baby with the building behind him, and that was going back to that today. That was probably first video and first political comment, right? In a reggaeton. No, it was a reggaeton, but it was hip hop. But it was the first political, wink or detail. And then I had the chance to work with Calle 13 for a while. I worked on the Multiviral album, and we did. We shot a video in Palestine, in Israel, Palestine, and it was Multiviral, the song. Julian Assange is in there. Tom Morello does the guitar, is the guitarist of the song. So I had a chance to shoot Tom Morello, who's my favorite guitarist in the world. And then I couldn't meet Julian, but he's part of the song, and it's actually in the video. It's like the revealing moment of the video when he starts talking, right? And the video goes it's 3 Palestinian kids that they are walking through Bethlehem with what. The first kid has an AK-47 magazine, and then he takes that to another kid that has the other part of the AK-47, and that kid goes to the third one, and they start like putting together the AK-47. And when Julian Assange starts talking, we reveal La Escopetarra, which is a piece from a Colombian artist that he turned an AK-47 into an electric guitar, right? So that idea came from René. Like, look at this, this electric guitar that is an AK-40 made from an AK-47, and then I came up with the idea of the story of the 3 kids that you think they want to put together this AK-47 to do something with it, and then what they did was turn it into a guitar. So yeah, that was the Calle 13 part.
Amazing! Everyone's gonna go Google that now.
Multiviral from Calle 13.
How do you compare that kind of very overt political engagement with the kind of politics that people associate with Benito? Like, for example, El Apagón. What is the political, before the documentary, how would you imagine the political statement being made in the video?
Well, actually, the political statement was before he came up with the idea of bringing Bianca to the table and having her do her thing. The video was first. The video I imagined first was a party that was going on, and there's an apagón, right? So the party's over, I guess. So no, what we propose is no, it's not going to be over. People will start bringing out their phones or flashlights, and they would bring the light to the party and throw the party and keep partying, right? So it was more about community resilience or about people saying no, okay, you can mess with us, but we're not gonna stay put, right? And there is a thing about that political comment about there's a saying around that goes like, si no voy a gozarlo, si no voy a pasarla bien, pues no hay revolución. O sea, the revolution has to happen and we have to be able to have fun too, and that's why we want to do a revolution, I guess, because we want to be free. We want to be able to do whatever we want to do, not whatever a third, an exterior force wants to do, right? So, in that sense, I think that was the original comment before it came to his mind, because it was his idea to bring Bianca and just spend 20 minutes after the video, right? And use the video as a sort of Trojan horse, right? He knew he had the biggest platform. He knew that a music video that he would put out, it would be seen by millions of people, regardless of the quality of the video or whatever. And he just wanted to do it, to use that to get people to see what was going on in Puerto Rico. And I think that he also understood that he had a bigger voice than before outside Puerto Rico, because Puerto Ricans, we knew what was going on. We knew we were suffering the apagones. We were suffering the Rossellos and and the peoples of life. But he wanted the world to know, and somehow telling the world would bring some pressure to the politicians and people making decisions and I want to say bad words, but just messing with us, So yeah, I think that he was very conscious of the platform that he had, and he was very, very, very straightforward on his las ganas que tenía de educar somehow. That's not the word that came from his mouth, but he wanted to tell everybody what's going on, and it worked. We got every single news place, BBC, New York Times. Everybody was calling to see what's going on, and they were publishing about it and talking about it. And he just wanted to put the conversation out there and try to see if that would do something about it.
Would you say that a song like El Apagón and its video, is that protest music? Is it political music?
I consider it. I might be, but very, very personal. Since I heard the song for the first time, I recognize it as a protest song. That's actually the best protest song in Puerto Rico in the last 50 years, right? So it's immoral in a way, Me gusta la chocha de Puerto Rico. It's not what we would say in front of our grandmothers, but
En Centro lo decimos acá rato.
No, but that's a good one. No, but first I started. He was saying, "Me gusta la salsa de Puerto Rico. Me gusta la salsa." I was like, "Okay, I like it too. I love it." But no, it wasn't that. So but I think that Luis Rafael Sanchez wrote the other day, like 3 days ago, and he would say, I want to quote it: "Yo no ceso de aplaudir el arte irreverente de mi compatriota, arte más saludable que el hipócrita estornudo moral, arte jamás cobarde." right? So I think that was pretty cool coming from Luis Rafael Sanchez of Oviedo, and I feel very. Like I can feel what he's saying, you know. I'm a 48-year-old director. I was about to retire from music videos, and a 25-year-old guy called me to collaborate, and I was like, okay, I can let's try that, and it worked. You know, it gave me a new air, a new energy to keep working on music and video and film, and El Apagón just closed it up like epically because now it's also politically important, socially important, and I can't see a more perfect scenario for me, just to be able to make a music video of that level and that will get that attention. And also talk about those things,
This has been so great. I mean, especially sort of being able to think through just, the history of reggaeton visually, right? Since Daddy Yankee, and I've loved hearing all your club stories because I would hear about these parties too, and it's really taking me back. Even though I was too young for most of them, but they were legendary parties that people still talked about. I have a quick question. Did you also do the video package for the Pe Fucking R concert?
We helped produce, yeah. I didn't direct it, but yeah.
So my question is sort of thinking about how do you approach creating video packages or any sort of material that's very clearly for a Puerto Rican audience versus something like the Coachella videos, which is going to be consumed by a much broader public. Is there, how does that process, how do those discussions go? How do you approach? Because I think I'm always and I think a lot of people are just very touched by, especially when we saw the Hermes Ayala video, right? It's just something that's speaking very closely to us as a Puerto Rican audience versus something that is sort of trying to, let's talk about the history of music, right? I don't know if that's conversations that happen with him or how does the team approach that difference in audience if it's any part of the process?
Well, I think the most interesting conversation we had regarding that was if it should be in Spanish or English, right? Because he is known for speaking Spanish and the non-English thing and, all that around his persona. And, here we are in a concert that it's in California, and we know the audience is going to be big in English, right? And that. So we had that conversation, and he said, you know what? This two videos or the history of reggaeton and music, we're going to do in English because I want the English people to understand and see what's up. The Spanish-speaking audience knows this, right? So yeah, that was the conversation, but there's not a conversation about approach in terms of what we say and how we say it regarding audiences. We don't make decisions looking at that. It's just what's right or wrong according to our vision of what it should be. One thing we did was Colpetra to give us the research of reggaeton and Cesar Colón Montijo for the music history, and that is part of the process when we do this kind of thing, right? If we're going to talk about the history of something, we should look for the people that study that and that really know about it and have them, give us a version of that so that we can build using their knowledge and using their experience to do something that's legit and that people, will get out of there with some truth,
I have to say, I don't know if you've ever looked at the comments on YouTube for El Apagón. It moves me so much. All these people from Latin America, from outside of Puerto Rico, who connect to the story, connect to the specificity, and also just express great solidarity. They're like, "Dale Boricua, sí,
there is a thing in music and film, right, where we talk about when we want to talk to the world, do we change our accents or change the way we talk, or do we go inside and show the world what we really are, or differently than just trying to be liked as a clown, I guess, or whatever. In this case, we believe that that we really have to be true to ourselves, and that's what the world will like. The world will like if we are ourselves, and we are more Puerto Rican than anything else, right? If we become more American or more European, then we are just diverging from our essence, right? So in that sense, I think that when other Latin Americans see El Apagón and see the rising prices caused by rich people just buying and paying overprice and gentrification and all that happens in Mexico. That happens it's happening everywhere, actually. People are going in and they don't have Ley 60 or Ley 22, but they are, rich people are going into places and buying over the price, and the prices go up and people cannot pay them anymore. People that lived there for 50 years, 40, 30, 20, whatever, and then they are displaced. And that reality, we were talking about ourselves. We were not talking about, with anybody else in mind, but everybody else was like, oh, wait, but that's happening at home too, right? So that's what I've seen, commented around.
And I've been surprised by how many people resonate with him speaking Spanish, even if they aren't fluent in Spanish. And I loved how Miguel was saying, like, music is its own language, right? So people can have an insight, can have a connection and an understanding, while also connecting with that authenticity of experience. Or like, oh, I don't know what he's saying, but I know he's speaking his language. I know he's representing his people, and I know that for a lot of people that's very meaningful.
So first, thank you for representing Gen Xers at a time where millennials and Gen Zs are doing a phenomenal job at keeping us relevant. But as a fellow Gen Xer that knew you when you had hair and
oh yeah.
And got to, hang out at a very particular time. And, I find myself to be very privileged to have not just hang out with you, but you come from a circle of friends that are all killing it in some way in their respective genres, a lot of in film and video. Carlitos Riri, Carlos Perez doing videos, Carlitos Riri's doing film, the late Esteban Limalugo, our dear, loved friend, and I know that probably many others, but how does that happen? Y'all are hanging out, y'all are friends from childhood, you are, very, tight. How does that happen? And what, I guess, how do you tie that to your generation? How do you tie that to the generation that came before you, like your grandfather and your parents and whatnot? And what do you think is the exchange now with the generations that you are building with now?
Well, in terms of that, of where I come from, that's I guess it's destiny and luck, right? I was lucky enough to de nacer de mi madre, right, de Rosy Mari, and that brought, for example, I was a friend of Esteban, because they were friends, Carlote Lima is still the best friends with my stepdad, with Ginan's father, and then you have most of them. Carlitos Perez, for example, he was a dancer with me in Telemundo, and we met when I was 15. He was like 18 or 17, and he was the one that called me and said, hey, we need a dancer, additional dancer. So we started there, and he became a graphic designer because he would go and stay in my house, and in my house there was a graphic design studio built by Ginan's father and my mother, and he saw that, and there were Macintoshes there, and he was like, what's that? That's a computer. And what do you do? Graphic design. And he was like, okay, can I? And he was studying painting in the University of Puerto Rico. So he became a graphic designer in my house, right? So he then went to Miami to study, where I went to study graphic design following him after what happened in Puerto Rico and what happened to me after the parties, the reggaeton party. So when I fly to Miami, then I live with Carlos Perez there. He's the director of Despacito, for example, and many other videos, classic videos. So we started together dancing. He became a graphic designer at home. I became a graphic designer after him. And then when I become a film director, I called him and said, hey, look at this. This is nice. So I invited him to a few videos. We did La Gasolina together. We did Tegos and Don Omar, Bandoleros. We did a couple of videos together, right? And then we parted ways, and he did what he did, and I did what I did. But yeah, we still are, best friends, And now in terms of that, I can relate to, for example, to Benito with that. Like, if you see Benito's circle right now, it's the circle that grew up with him in Arecibo and Manatí, and it's the same guys. When you see, you have Ñoño, you have Yang, you have these guys that are all awesome. That's crazy. That's lucky for him that he went to school with these guys, right? And now they help him a lot, and they helped him become the most famous or the most streamed artist in the world, right? And yeah, I think in that sense, I think we can relate. It's different generations, but in a way of the same values and same the same understanding of friendship, and how those old friendships are actually very valuable for what we do today. Yeah.
I always imagine Benito living this Puerto Rican version of the HBO show Entourage. This like turtle or whatever.
I just really wanted to publicly say thank you so much for your work. And to me, just thinking about what we've heard from everyone today, it's like the perfect culmination, because part of the challenge and the tension is like, as academics, how do we bring this material to the table? As artists, how do you bring this to the table? How do we come together? How do we speak the same language? And, as someone who tries to do accessible academic work and popular media and film, the reality is that something like El Apagón is actually impacting the field of Latino studies. And so I want to underscore that, because like we ran 2 searches in our department this year. And when I ask in California, not many people teach about Puerto Rican studies. And I say, how do you talk about Puerto Rico in the classroom? Every single candidate who I asked that question to said, I use El Apagón.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
We're working on this collaboration with the Puerto Rico Syllabus Project and the Bad Bunny Syllabus Project that's all focused on El Apagón. It's creating academic literature, it's created popular literature, it's educating people across the globe and here. And so we just can't underestimate the significance of what happens when artists come together to create this educational work that can change our world. And so I just, I really wanted to thank you for that, but also make sure that you really know, and I'm curious if there's, if you think there are other future possibilities that you think are on the radar for this kind of educational work that might come up in future projects with Bad Bunny. But it's been so extraordinarily impactful. And again, I think this is that magical place where the art is influencing academia, and there's just so much generative power there. And I think it can carry on this legacy. Like you said, you're charged with this political project, and it's working. So thank you, and I'm curious to know if there's any other things you're dreaming up, or maybe Benito's dreaming up.
Thanks a lot for that. Well, first, I have to say that the impact and being here is actually mind-blowing for me, at least. Just having all these people here and all you guys, talking about this, and it really means, and it really shows us that Benito was right, what he was doing, right, and that is very important that we engage, that we keep working, and that we keep using our talents to communicate all the things that affect us, and yes, in terms of future things, we have talked about many things that we would love to do, like just doing pieces about, about important Puerto Ricans, and just doing, little capsules of information about important Puerto Ricans in the same way you just take El Apagón and see the first few seconds. You have Albizu Campo, you have, I don't know, Clemente, you have a lot of people that are very important to us culturally, artistically, or in any angle. And imagine that we could do for each one of them a little piece on info for the world to know them more deeply or more profound. So yeah, because I don't know. He came out in the Time magazine cover, and everybody was saying, "Oh, he's channeling Betances." Oh shit, it was crazy, and the thing is that even if he was channeling or not channeling Betances, well, you could see the images, and I was like, oh, okay, that looks similar. And the searches for Betances blew up. Like, the people were looking for that. Like, who is Betances, right? So all of a sudden, it is an amazing educational tool, right? Just to have people with the leverage that he has, and even less leverage because he has the top, he's the top notch. But people with leverage, if they use it to move that kind of information, the information actually gets distributed and gets out there, and people start learning stuff that in other circumstances they wouldn't know. So I think that the next steps would be to refocus that. We already did the video and we already did that, but what if we do more content to keep showing people and telling people who this people is, or situations and problems that we want the world to know, right?
First of all, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For directing the videos of our childhoods. Que no haya escuchado ese término de electromovie. So in El Apagón, which has so many icons of Puerto Ricanness, and then in the middle, there's this rave with all these queer signifiers in it. And we had been talking before in our great panel, talking about queer reggaeton, and I was wondering if you could pull back the curtain a little bit and tell us about the creative process and how you decided to include these queer signifiers, aspects of queerness within this video that is so iconically Puerto Rican.
Well, that was all Body Vogue, Body Vogue has been going on, and it was killing it, right? So we were like, what is this? We need to have this. We need to bring them to where? Well, to El Apagón. When the Apagón came together, it was like, this is the perfect scenario for the Body Vogue. Imagine the Body Vogue happening in El Túnel de Oaxaca, right? Which is also for us, more for us than for the generation of Benito, of its generation, right? It was the parties were there, right? So all of a sudden we were like, this is a perfect place to do the video because of all the other signifiers, and actually the coming out of the tunnel to the beach, it was perfect, right? For Un Verano Sin Ti. So that was that, and then, well, Body Vogue for once, and Perreo Combativo was the other image, the other icon that I wanted to put there, because we talk about protest song and how do we bring the protest to the party, right? And that was Perreo Combativo. It was having fun and dancing in the context of a protest, and they did it in the cathedral, and it was all news every day, and the famous El Perreo Intenso acaba de comenzar, right? That moment was pretty iconic, and it was all, it all happened in 2019, but when we got the chance to do the video, we used the footage of the protest. We used Benito with René and Ricky and the protest in La Fortaleza, so the video talks about it, and then when we get to the party, then we brought the party protest icons, right, in Body Vogue and El Perreo Combativo, right? So that was the idea there. Yeah.
Gachos, thank you so much for everything that you've said today. My name is Sofia Sanchez, and I'm a reporter-producer with Latino USA and Futuro. And as a journalist, I really appreciate the way that Professor Vanessa Diaz also said that you've been able to use music videos as a call to different political issues. I'm wondering also if you now as Benito is getting more popular, if he's also using them as a call and response to, different issues, or just as a way to also answer to his people. For example, there was a lot of flack that he received for the Time article, and shortly after at Coachella, a lot of the videos were centering, they cemented that reggaeton and salsa had black roots. I was wondering if that was an intentional, response to the flack that he's received, or if that was something that was created before.
No. That was the blackness of the pieces there is just telling the story of Puerto Rican music. If you tell the story of Puerto Rican music, it's a black people music, it's nothing else. So that's just that. If you want to tell the story, you have to tell the story of our African descendants, and impact and influence. So that was that, and that. Tego was another piece of the story. When we shot the short film in the short film, his name was Yoba, but his name is Camilo, the actor. He's a black actor, right? So in terms of the actor, that wasn't a call from anybody. It was just the actor. We were looking for the best 19-year-old actor in Puerto Rico. So he could be black, white, whatever. It was who's the best 19-year-old actor. So looking for him, we come, we see Camilo because he's an actor that has been working since he was a little kid in short films in Puerto Rico and whatnot. And it was brought up to me, I was like, oh, he looks nice. Yeah, I love him. He looks amazing. So let's cast him, right? So I talked to him. He sends his casting. And he was the best actor that we could get. So that was that. So the decision was made not because of anything that they told him or anything. It was just he was the best actor. But it made sense. The story of Puerto Rican music is the story of our black people. So yeah, and Tego is black. So Tego is the last CD you see. You start it all made sense. So of course, if the kid is black, the mom is black, el tío is black, right? So it becomes a black cast, and I loved it. I was like, I think it was pretty amazing, just to find him. But it had nothing to do with race. It had more to do with who is the best actor we can get in terms of him. In terms of the history of music, well, it's the history of our music, Yeah.
Saludos, gracias Yarimar y Cacho por esta excelente presentación. Lo mío es más una curiosidad. Si piensas que el hecho de que Bad Bunny nunca haya firmado con una disquera haya sido un factor fundamental para que él haya podido hacer la música que él quisiera y que no tuviera que seguir los parámetros que generalmente ponen las disqueras, que son un poquito más conservadores.
She says, I am a school librarian here in New York City, and I work with young men and women in detention. They have no internet access while they are in detention, and I would love to show them the videos you made for the Coachella performance, because I think it would mean a lot for them to see them. Is there any way to access these for educational purposes?
I'm gonna, you know what? I've been asked for that today like 57 times. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna make some calls to see if we can adapt those videos to a format that is watchable in a phone or a computer or a TV screen. Because I think it's. We should do that. And the thing is that she was saying it's like an art installation. It's like a video installation of 5 different videos running at the same time. So it's like a long, 5:1 ratio. So it's not like you see like a long strip of video moving really small in a screen. So yeah, we need to adapt them to make them fit. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna ask the Rimas to just see if we can share it that way. We cannot put them on YouTube and all that because of all the rights we have to pay because of the people we show and everything. But certainly for educational purposes and stuff, it's probably a way to convince them to do it. So yeah, thank you. And yes, the independent label thing, it's very important, I think that it has a lot to do with his outcome, with the output, He doesn't have a board, saying what he needs to sing, or another generation talking to him from up there. He collaborates with a bunch of people. Noah Assad, his the manager and the owner of Rimas, he's a kid like him. They're very young kids that are geniuses of what they do. They are very, very smart, and they have developed new ways of reaching people and monetizing, and they have developed the new ways to do it, right? So in that sense, I think that it has a lot to do with independence, and let's talk about independence. His not being married to a global company with all that with all the charge that will bring him, it's everything, being free and being able to just manage sus intereses, sus preocupaciones, and being able to say whatever, because nobody will tell him what to say and what to do. So in that case, I think that being an independent label is everything. As the same way being an independent country will bring a better path for Puerto Rico in the future.
Gracias.